My name is Luban Vasilev Rusev and I'm a psychology professor at the Psychological Institute of Psychology. Today we'll be talking about Holden Caulfield from the book The Catcher in the Rye. The first question we'll be answering is... Now, the book The Catcher in the Rye is mostly viewed as a very sad book with a very sad ending. But I believe the ending can be seen in a positive light. You might be asking yourself, how is this possible? By the end of the book, Holden is isolated by his family, friends, Phoebe, and is even put in a psychological institution. Well, the fact that he's in a psychological institution is the positive. How? Well, the chances of Holden committing suicide the way James Castle did were enormous. This can be supported with a lot of quotes, but the quote I'll choose is when Holden has finished watching a war movie and he's explaining how he doesn't like it and how cheesy and phony it was. Well, he makes an interesting remark. He says, "Anyway, I'm sort of glad they've got the atomic bomb invented. If there's ever another war, I'm going to sit right the hell on top of it. I'll volunteer for it, I swear to God I will." Another example is while he's talking to Ackley, he gets up, looks outside the window and says, "I felt so lonesome all of a sudden. I almost wished I was dead." These are but a few of Holden's suicidal thoughts, and as you can see, the chances of Holden committing suicide were pretty big. But he doesn't. Instead, like the ducks in Central Park, he moves from a colder place to a warmer place, both figuratively and literally in the form of California. Another bittersweet part of the ending is right at the end, on the final page, when he's explaining to us what's going on currently in his life. He says, "I sort of miss everyone I told you about, even old Stride later and Ackley, for instance." This is great. This shows that Holden has finally grown appreciation for the people he's been calling phony and just disliking throughout the entire novel. This shows growth. Yes, it is kind of sad because he can't go back and fix everything he's said. But when he does go back to school in September, as he states earlier in the chapter, he can use the experiences he's had throughout this novel to create friends and stop being so isolated and lonesome. He's finally grown. He's jumped off the rye. He's not a catcher anymore.
Hello, my name is Vincent Sutherland and I'm a psychologist from the Harvard Psychologist Institution. Today I will be analyzing Holden Caulfield. Throughout the novel Catcher in the Rye, the events that take place create a very sad visualization of the story. However, in the end of the novel, Holden finally comes to the realization that he should return home with his sister. He even decides to meet with a psychoanalyst regularly so that he can get rid of his major depressive episode. Furthermore, throughout the novel, Holden had constantly been talking about his depression. He had been mentioning a lot about suicide and visualizing his death, or even what it would be like after he died. This is portrayed in the following quotes.
"I swear if there's ever another war, they better just take me out and stick me in front of a firing squad. I wouldn't object. It wouldn't be too bad if they just take you out and shoot you or something. I have a tombstone and all. It'll say Holden Caulfield on it. And then what year I was born and what year I died. And then right under that, it'll say F you."
This conveys to us that he did think about his death a lot and that he wouldn't mind dying. He wouldn't care. So for this reason and many others, it was good to end on a more positive note. In addition, the quotes also show us how the book was very pessimistic throughout, so it was great to end on a more optimistic view. Moreover, he even decides to consider going back to school when he says, "I think I am," to the psychoanalyst after she asks him if he's thinking of going back to school in the next September. This is a critical change due to the fact that throughout the book, he consistently spoke about how much he hated school and how much it depressed him, mostly due to the fact of the phonies at his school. This can be seen in the quote,
"I can't stand that stuff. It drives me crazy. It makes me so depressed I go crazy. I hated that goddamn Elton Hills."
It analyzes how school made Holden go mad and that he clearly loathed it. Furthermore, Holden considering going back to school also shows that he will be trying to find ways to deal with society.
Is Holden a sane person in an insane world or an insane person in a sane world? This question can be answered in two very different yet very justifiable ways. One is that the world is insane and Holden is normal. I mean, look at the people Holden runs into. A prostitute in the form of Sonny, self-centered people in the form of Stradlater, and maybe even a pedophile in the form of Mr. Antolini. And you also have to keep in mind that the world had just gone through 2 world wars and was in the midst of a Cold War. It wasn't a very normal time period to be living in. But you can also see Holden as insane. This can be supported with a lot of evidence. One example is when Holden explains to us the time he reacted to his brother Ali's death. He says, "I slept in the garage the night he died, and I broke all the goddamn windows with my fist, just for the hell of it. I even tried to break all the windows on the station wagon we had that summer, but my hand was already broken and everything by the time, and I couldn't do it." Doesn't sound like a very sane reaction. Breaking stuff can be attributed to insane people. Another example is Holden's unintentional screaming at Sally when she refuses to run away with him. "Why not? Why the hell not? Stop screaming at me, please," she said, which was crap, because I wasn't even screaming at her. That quote can also be used to support the argument that Holden is insane, because a lack of self-control is attributed to people with insanity. In conclusion, is Holden sane or not? Well, we can't tell with 100% certainty for one sheer reason. Holden is a narrator. The story is told from his point of view. He decides what we need to know and what we don't need to know. Nevertheless, we can infer through his actions and what we know whether he is insane or not. There are many different definitions for insanity. However, I've chosen to concentrate on one from psychologytoday.com. It states, "Insanity is a mental illness of such a severe nature that a person cannot distinguish fantasy from reality and cannot conduct his affairs due to psychosis." Even though Holden is put in a mental institution by the end of the book, no mental illness is named throughout the novel. So we can't tell with certainty that he's insane or not. But we can infer, and we can also say that compared to the people he's met and the rest of the people in the 1950s, he is different. But since when does different mean insane?
Is Holden an insane person, or is he living in an insane world? According to the online Google dictionary, the meaning of being insane is being in a state of mind which prevents normal perception, behavior, or social interaction. If we apply this definition to Holden's actions, we can clearly see that Holden is, in fact, insane. There are many examples in the novel where Holden does not seem to have the same perception of life as other characters in the book do. For example, when he chooses to flunk 4 of his schools. This is connected to his hatred of anything related to phonies. When talking to Mr. Spencer, Holden says,
This is about the 4th school I've gone to.
He claims that he flunks and leaves schools because they're all full of phonies. This is said in the quote.
One of the biggest reasons I left Elton Hills was because I was surrounded by phonies. That's all. They were coming in the goddamn window.
However, failing subjects is a choice he made on his own. Loathing phonies might have influenced his decision to not do his work, but in the end, it was his own fault that he flunked those schools. Making decisions like those is something only an insane person would do. Any other person would be doing their work in order to succeed. Furthermore, Holden doesn't behave in a normal, acceptable social manner. This can be seen in his conversation with Carl Luce when he asks him, "How's your sex life?" This is a very inappropriate question to ask someone. It portrays how he can't interact with people in a sane way, showing us how insane his behavior is around others. Another example of Holden's inappropriate behavior is when he breaks the windows in his garage. This is because of the grief of his brother Ali's death. This is conveyed in the quote.
I broke all the goddamn windows with my fist, just for the hell of it. I even tried to break all the windows on the station wagon.
Breaking windows is clearly an improper behavior. Only a madman could lose control like that. This event is a definite example of insanity. A normal person would never break windows. In conclusion, however, I think that the reason for Holden doing all those insane things tie back to the death of his younger brother Ali. The windows are especially a clear example of how Ali's death made Holden lose control, resulting in him using violence to be able to deal with the grief.